So my story starts on the 3rd of February 2019. I was in a nursing home. I was treating my patients, doing their feet. And yes, I know I'm weird. Nothing weird about it though. It helps. And I saw my favourite patient. We'll call her Joan. Obviously, that's not her name for patient confidentiality reasons. And when I saw her, she was like, "Oh, can I have a hug?" And I'm a very tactile person, so I was like, "Yeah, of course." Gave her a hug. We chatted for a few minutes, and then I was like, "Really got to go and do some work, otherwise I'll get into trouble." So I was like, "Right, okay." Went to do my patients, and every time I went past her room, after that, her room was shut. And I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough." And later on that evening, I was writing my notes, because if you don't write your notes in healthcare, it didn't happen. I saw her being wheeled off in an ambulance. And it turned out she had sickness and diarrhea. And I'd given her a hug. So yes, 2 days later I woke up with sickness and diarrhea. But I also woke up with toothache in my right side. And this was actually to do with an abscess below my jaw. Which we found out later. So it was the Sunday that I saw my patient, the Tuesday that I was sickness and diarrhea, and then on the Thursday I woke up and I deteriorated overnight. So much so that I was shaking, I was hallucinating, my blood O2 sats were 89, so that's why I was hallucinating, because of lack of oxygen to the brain. I was in immense pain, immense swelling to the point where my neck was down here. Like absolutely shaking, like I was having a fit. Really high temperature. My blood pressure had crashed, but I didn't know that at this point. I was just thinking, I really don't feel very well, and I could hardly talk because of the swelling, and I was in so much pain. I phoned the doctors at 8:30, and they said, "We're very sorry, the doctors are shut today due to training." And that was actually me hallucinating. That's what I was saying. And my mum got me an appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we got in, and he had a feel of my neck, which was down here. And he was like, "I'm not a mouth specialist. You need to go and get an emergency appointment with the dentist." And to be honest, he should have actually said, "You need A&E," because he was saying something isn't right, but it really wasn't right. And so I went to A&E. Well, I went to the dentist an hour later, so I got an appointment at 11. And it was there that I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life. Because as a healthcare professional, you know that things are bad when you need IV antibiotics. And they said, "Yeah, you need IV antibiotics right now." I will say that the doctor did give me amoxicillin, so I had actually had some antibiotics by the point where we'd gone to the dentist. So that was a positive. So when I was there, they were like, "Don't want to scare you, you need IV antibiotics. Which hospital are you going to?" Because where I go to the dentist, it's smack bang in the middle of two hospitals. And so we were like Royal Sussex County Hospital. And the big thing with that is they were undergoing massive renovation work. So car park had been shut, whole load of stuff, building work everywhere. It was a nightmare. But with that, we were staying at the Royal Sussex, so my mum phoned my dad to get my dad to pick us up. No, to take us to the dentist, to the doctor, to the hospital. You can tell it's getting to me right now. And then when I got to the hospital, this is where it got really serious. Because you know that you're not well when you are being seen like that. And within 2 minutes of being in A&E, we were being seen by triage. 30 seconds after being in triage, we had the MaxFax team in with us, which is the maxillofacial unit. Which means that the dentists had phoned through to the MaxFax, which is about 10-minute walk away with the hospital because it's across the road and all of that. So it means that they had really been like, no, we're worried about this girl. I then was sent down to X-ray and then came back. They then put an IV in. I'm scared of needles, so that was horrible. And they went to then order an MRI. For me, I can't have an MRI because I have an implant in my head because of a hearing aid. So I then had to be like, no, and it had to have a CT scan instead. I was on a bed in Majors within 5 minutes of being back in A&E, minus after the X-ray. I was kind of attached to everything you can imagine, steroids, antibiotics, fluids, you name it. After 5.5 hours of that, I then was taken for a CT scan. And when you have sepsis, blood actually leaks out of your arteries and your veins. And so the dye actually leaked out, and for about 3 months I had a massive bruise coming up there because of that. But after coming back from the CT, I was then taken into surgery. When I was in the surgery, it took 2 anaesthetists to get me out. And this is because my throat was so swollen, they had to do a little bit of general here, but in order to actually get me to sleep, they actually had to intubate while I was awake, but down my nose because my throat was so swollen. It took me 20 minutes to go out, and it was the most disgusting experience you've ever had. And I woke up in recovery. My pulse was 139 per minute. That's one thing I forgot to say earlier. Pulse was extremely high. My O2 sats were still 89. But I was actually told at that point that if my mum and dad hadn't brought me in and if I'd waited for an ambulance, I wouldn't be here. So for me, every day, I thank the NHS so much, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here right now. But because of this story and the fact that so many people die of sepsis each year, that's 11 million people die of sepsis each year, but 49 million people each year have sepsis. I knew that I survived for a reason, and it's because of that.